just of people here illegally. But remember, it's not a crisis. It's a guaranteed Democratic majority for the next 100 years. And that's a good thing. Ask CNN. Enrique Acevedo is a Univision anchor, and he joins us tonight. Enrique, thanks very much for coming on. So I think, and my memory, as I age, gets a little bit spottier, but I think you were one of those assuring us this is not a crisis. Looking at the numbers, which I don't think you would contest because they're real, do you want to reassess that? Is it now a crisis?
Well, the first time I came on your show last year, Tucker, I told you that the strategy, the administration's strategy, was not working. It was only making things worse. I talked about a humanitarian crisis at the border. You laughed. You told me I was crazy. You told me I was lying and part of this liberal media conspiracy. And here we are 6 months after talking about a humanitarian catastrophe at the border. I said that by doubling down on the same failed policies of the past 50 years, President Trump was only making things worse. Here we are 6 months after talking about a strategy that simply hasn't worked. So that's what's happening at the border, and I hate to say it, but I told you so.
Okay. And you know what? I stand corrected. You said things are bad at the border. I said everything is fine, Enrique. You're a racist. Stop spewing that propaganda.
You talked about a security crisis at the border, Tucker, and there's no security crisis. There's a humanitarian crisis.
Oh, okay. But there's, and for the people involved, it is by definition a humanitarian crisis. They're leaving their failed countries trying to get here. I get it. I've sympathized with them since day one. I still sympathize with them. So we agree on that. But for American citizens, when you have 22 million people living here illegally, that's more than 16 states combined in population, that's a crisis for us. That's what you denied, and I doubt you'll admit it now.
And so that's just an estimate. Another estimate says, and this is, it just depends on which number you want to use. It says that there are half of that, 11 million undocumented people
only
who've been living here for decades.
Only larger than New York City.
Not only, but
I get it. Right. So here's my question to you. How many would constitute a crisis? How many people do we have to let live illegally in our country before we say, you know what, we have to start deporting people? What's the number? Give me a sense, ballpark.
I think there is a crisis. That's not what we're debating. There is a humanitarian crisis at the border, and a wall and limiting the number of people who can claim asylum legally, that's not going to make things better. That's actually going to make things worse. These refugees are turning themselves into Border Patrol agents. They're not running away from Border Patrol agents. You can ask them at the border.
Because they know that the system is a scam, and that's why we have 800,000 pending immigration cases.
You're telling me that children, 7, 8-year-old children and their mothers know that the system is it's working in their favor? They know how the legal system works here in the U.S.?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying, and you know that that's true. But let me ask you.
And that's the reason why they're coming,
Let me
right?
ask you,
not because they're being victims of violence and extreme poverty.
I've never doubted that.
Even climate change.
I'm an American. And my interest is in my country, which is the United States of America. And I don't believe that having tens of millions of people illegally in your country or using social services is good for my country. It may be good for theirs, it's not good for mine.
Why is it not good for the country? In what sense does it make the country worse, Tucker? I would like to know.
It's very simple. It's very simple. When people who are poor come to a country that's getting poorer, that country doesn't get richer. And I don't have to guess about that because I've lived here the whole time.
The Rockefellers were very poor when they came to this country. Another one of the most celebrated dynasties in the history of the U.S.
Right. That was about 150 years ago. I'm saying right now, the country that we're living in, California,
and that's where the racism argument comes into play. But maybe the problem is that these immigrants are coming from Latin America and that we keep conflating immigration with crime, with terrorism, with economic hardship.
What I'm saying is, every time
in your show when we talk about immigration, you have images of dangerous gangs. I'm sure this is happening now as we speak.
I'm a racist for wanting to control who comes into my country. The overwhelming majority of our immigration
comes from conflating immigration with crime and terrorism and economic hardship, Tucker. That's not the reality.
I'm not conflating anything.
Every time we talk about immigration on your show, there's a negative connotation to this discussion. There are even negative images illustrating immigrants, like dangerous gangs and that kind of thing.
Does it take, I'm trying not to use a vulgarity on the air, it takes a lot of chutzpah, doesn't it, to come into someone's country without permission, illegally, break their laws, use their social services, and then whip around and call them racist, which is the game. That kind of takes a lot of guts, doesn't it?
Well, if you put it like that, but I don't think that's what's happening with them.
You're doing that to me right now. I'm a racist.
I'm not using any social services. I'm actually paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, and I don't use any social services because as an immigrant I can't until I become a citizen. You know that, right? Even as a permanent resident, a legal resident.
It's been a very generous country for a long time, and this kind of abuse makes Americans more cynical and less generous. And so if you want immigration to continue to enrich this country, you've got to get it under control and let Americans decide who comes and who doesn't. That's it. That's simple. And stop calling them racist, because it's very tiresome. It's dumb.
Again, the racism comes from conflating immigration with crime, with terrorism and economic hardship.
You're calling
which is
Americans racist because they don't like being